Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and a few weeks ago I went through my farming wish list because obviously we are getting The Sims 4 cottage living. I had to stop myself so hard from saying country living then, but it is cottage living, and SimGuru Romeo actually, unfortunately for a lot of players, has confirmed that cottage living will not actually have any occults in it, because I know so many players were wanting fairies. So many people thought this was going to be a fairies expansion, which to be honest, I was always a little bit skeptical of because occults have always been done in game packs. They've never had specific expansions for them. I do think that they could have put fairies in a farming expansion, but I don't personally like the occults that have come in expansions such as aliens and mermaids because they are super underwhelming to me, and I feel like they just kind of get like pushed to the side a little bit when they are included in expansions. But because we have that confirmation now, you may have missed it because not everyone follows the gurus on Twitter. I wanted to make this video to warn you that fairies wouldn't be a part of this new expansion, but also talk about the possibility of getting a fairies game pack in the future. My actual wish is to just have like a supernatural expansion just to finish off supernaturals. I talked about this in my 2021 wish list for packs, and I love the game packs when it comes to occults. Vampires is hands down one of my favorite game packs for The Sims 4. I think vampires were done absolutely flawlessly. I absolutely believe Spellcasters could have been done better, but it's a very pretty pack and I do have fun with Spellcasters. So I would like to see an expansion that sort of brings like werewolves and fairies, and then maybe another type of occult that we aren't really used to seeing, like gnomes or elves or goblins, something that could kind of like switch up The Sims 4 a little bit, with this expansion being focused on farming. And obviously I feel like so many packs of The Sims 4 have been nature focused. I definitely would like to see fairies be into nature because a lot of fairies are like, as a supernatural being, the like things that we kind of relate fairies to are nature, gardens, blooms, Wild, and then also like the mischief, the tricksters, and things like that. So I think it would definitely be a missed opportunity to not have them connect with nature in some way. However, I don't want it to be like all that fairies can do. I wouldn't mind it being like one path that you could take, or like a couple of spells that you could get, or a couple of powers to like help your garden. I just don't want to push fairies into the niche that they have to be based around nature. However, having said that, Azuki actually posted a great thread on the Sims 4 forums, which I am going to show off to you lot because honestly, like, this sounds sort of like my dream pack for fairies. So this is no longer being updated, but obviously you've got like Create a Sim with the wings. I think fairy wings are gorgeous, and I think they'd look gorgeous in The Sims 4 with the art style. And then obviously lore. I do think that was what was sort of missing when it came to spellcasters over vampires. Like, vampires had their own lore skill, and yeah, whilst it didn't do too much rather than just like give you hints of how to play as a vampire, it just like made them feel like that they were meant to be in the game. Then abilities. I loved having them relate to the actual elements, like water, air, ice, and earth, or like water, air, fire, and earth. Like, that sounds incredible. So water and ice, the power to manipulate water, oceans, lakes, fish, fountains, put out fires, hot tubs, pools, showers, sinks. So basically like pranking Sims, like bringing on rainstorms or thunderstorms if you have seasons. This is obviously very like cross-compatible, I feel like, which tends not to come across too much in game packs. I feel like that's definitely more of an expansion thing. Then air, the ability to clear the skies, create winds to blow leaves or prank Sims. A joke with summoning inner winds, just making your Sims fart all the time. Faster flying, making things float. Perfection. Earth, the most classic of fairies, gardens, and nature would be associated with these fairies. This is why I really like this idea, because it takes that nature of element and like what we tend to already have when it comes to gardening in the game, but it's not the main focus. Also, it would be the perfect opportunity to actually bring back plant sims as a full-time thing. Plant sims were around for a tiny amount. You can still make them, I think, but I don't think they stay as plant sims, and they're just not filled out at all in The Sims 4. It was so weird, so strange to introduce plant sims as an event and then just like pretend they never existed. Like, I don't think plant sims have been acknowledged by the team since that, which I find strange, but maybe you could like bless a sim to become a plant sim. So we're kind of getting like two occults in one, because I feel like plant sims really just do what we already have in the game. So it would literally just be like turning them into it, which we already have the outfit for. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this post in the description because I'm not gonna go into it in full detail, but the ideas here were impeccable, and it's like already a fully fleshed out thing in my mind, and now I want it. What I don't want for fairies, I don't just want them to be reskinned spellcasters. If there's anything like to say about spellcasters, is I don't think there was enough variety when it came to spellcasters. I feel like vampires was so good because there was so many different weaknesses and powers that you could actually gain through vampires. And they also had like 3 different lifetime aspirations, which definitely helped you to like take a path and like explore which sort of vampire you wanted to be. So for my ideas personally, and not just like ripping from the Sims forums, I literally just wrote a list. I also asked my mum for her input because my mum is a big fairy lover. My mum was like a big hippie back in her day and age, so like literally music festivals, long skirts on, plants in her hair, dancing around barefoot. My mum is a little nature queen, which I love for her. So she's very, very vocal about what she wants in The Sims 4 when it comes to fairies, apparently. So first up, healing. I think it would be really cool if fairies could help with sick Sims and also like sick animals. I think that would be very, very cute, like being able to put like a blessing on someone and heal them back to full health, because I personally really dislike sickness in The Sims 4. It really annoys me. I just wish they would be like over and done with, and fairies would give you an opportunity. But again, that only really works if you have cats and dogs or get to work. So I don't want everything to be cross-pack for those people who don't have those packs. I definitely think there needs to be a bad sort of trait for the fairies. Like, yes, I want the playfulness and the mischievous ones, but I also think there needs to be like a powerful one. So these are sort of like some negative ones, but control. So your Sims could have emotional control. They could definitely give like emotional buffs, which I feel is going to come anyway, because we've had both of those in Spellcasters and also vampires in The Sims 4. Also being able to make other Sims do your bidding. We saw that in vampires, like being able to put them in a trance and like tell them what you want them to do. So I feel like that could definitely work for fairies as well. I feel like you should be able to turn other Sims into fairies, like especially through oaths, which I think is really good for those like evil storytellings. I'm saying all of this because that's like the storytelling that I like when you can get a little bit dark. Like I kind of want like dark fairies and like dark fae creatures, and I don't want it to be all like light and airy and like playful and mischievous. Also, my mum suggested like fairies that steal teeth, which we all saw recently in the update where the hairs were actually created, the different hair colors. Some of the swatches messed with Sims' teeth and they just had like black empty holes as mouths, which was quite terrifying. But also when you think about it, like fairies stealing teeth, the tooth fairy has to come from somewhere. And I feel like you could have like a tooth fairy for the kids. Like you can get money if you lose a tooth, you can put it under your pillow at night and then you get money. But then you can also just have like fairies who like steal teeth and have like a collection of teeth. Don't ask. Honestly, I feel like I'm gonna be having nightmares tonight after recording this video. I think it would be cool to have fairies who could have telekinesis, so they could read people's minds, but then they could also use that for blackmail if they wanted to. Or it can be like a Life is Strange True Colors empathy sort of thing where they start to feel what another sim is feeling if they read their minds. But I think just getting like a pop-up of like what that sim is thinking about, I think that would give a good opportunity for setting up like little Cupid scenarios. I'm doing this so much in this video, I need to stop. But like little Cupid scenarios where like if a sim was thinking about a certain other sim, like your fairy could be kind of mischievous and be like, oh my god, I'm gonna set them up together. I'm gonna give them both like love emotions. Like I'm gonna make them both flirty. And I think that would set you up for some pretty cool storytelling, to be honest. So hopefully telekinesis would be included if fairies were. And then they also need weaknesses. I don't think you can have an occult in The Sims 4 without having weaknesses. Also, I mentioned like a hobby, not really a hobby, but an activity in my Sims 4 Seasons wish list way back in the day now. And it was 4-leaf clover hunting, and I still think that would be very, very cute. We don't have lucky and unlucky Sims in The Sims 4, like it's not a trait, but we did have it in The Sims 3. And I just think like being able to go on like a 4-leaf clover hunt, and if your Sims find one, then they get like blessed with luck for like maybe like a Sims week or like 3 days, and therefore like good things happen to them over that number of days that it takes for the buff to be removed. And then if they don't find one, they maybe get like unlucky for like 2 days and like bad things happen to them. I think that could be very, very cute. I don't know. I just really want to see that for some reason. And we know that we're getting foraging in cottage living, so it would kind of make sense to like tie that in maybe with foraging. And a lot of these things, if you never played The Sims 3 fairies, a lot of these are very like similar-esque. I feel like fairies couldn't do too much in The Sims 3. Like I went back to Carl's Sims guides just to give myself like a refresh, and basically every level they sort of stepped up in, there was 10 levels of being a fairy, they sort of got a new interaction. So they could like, I could fly, which was basically a little interaction where they just flew around and it increased fun. They could go into their little fairy houses. They could also put blessings on Sims with auras, which basically gave a Sim a certain moodlet for a few days, and it gave you like boosts to your gains, so you gained like fun more quickly for a few days. And they were also tricksters. They could also set traps for your Sims, which is basically like part of the mischief skill in The Sims 4, like if you imagine that. And then they could also help with plants, so they could like make plants bloom. So not really like loads that they could do in The Sims 3. I definitely think they could be better and like way more thought out in The Sims 4 based upon like all the bases that we have for them. Like we've had 2 occults by now, we have all of the gardening stuff sorted, and we definitely have a little bit of like fairy lore as well, because in Discover University there was obviously the secret society, and they kind of met in a fairy circle, and it was to do with the, I can never think of what the name is, the sprites, and they were sort of like fairies in their own way that you could like interact with. And then again in the cottage living trailer we saw what a lot of people are calling a fairy ring. There is one up in Scotland that looks very, very similar to a scene that we saw in this trailer. However, a lot of people have said it looks like a Celtic burial site. Personally, it doesn't to me. I've been to Celtic burial sites. I'm not saying I've been to every one, but they're more of like mounds, like little hills, whereas this definitely doesn't look like that. It kind of looks like circles of like land like molded into like little rings or rocks, which usually fairy circles can be like mushrooms and stuff. A lot of people have said that it's a replica of like a Troy maze, so there's a lot of different ways that that could be interpreted. However, it does look like that fairy ring up in Scotland that like does actually exist, and it is based on the UK landscape. And then also in cottage living, there's like been a couple of things that like give off fairy vibes. I saw on Twitter someone said there was a little jar in the kitchen scene that looked like it had like fairies in it. They were obviously just like little lights, which is a very English thing to do, like sticking fairy lights in a jar. Name me a white woman that hasn't done that within like the past 3 years for their garden. It's definitely been a trend. Like, you can walk into B&M tomorrow and find so many of those globe lights with like little fairies, or like bottles with like snow on the outside with little fairy lights. So that definitely screams like UK trend, but also kind of fairies. And then there was also like a little wooden plaque that looked like it had fairy wings on it. So there's definitely been some like hints if you want to take it as a hint. I know the Sims team always say we don't do hints, but like there's a lot of stuff that correlates to fairies in a way. So that's my very like quick sort of wish list for fairies, or just like ideas really. This wasn't like a full thought out video of like everything I would like to see when it comes to fairies. But like I said, I would definitely check out that post on the forum. It was so in depth. There's also like 5 pages of like people just talking about what they want to see when it comes to fairies, which is so cool. I love it when the community like brainstorms together when it comes to packs. So I will link that down below. But you should also let me know what you want when it comes to fairies in The Sims 4 or any other supernaturals. Like, what supernaturals do you want to see? Are you like me where you just prefer like a supernatural expansion now just to like finish it off? Would you prefer them to continue focusing on occults in specific game packs? I want to hear all of your thoughts and theories and feelings about this topic, because I know occult players really want some more occults. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you aren't already, if you're looking for more Sims content, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.